In today's show, holiday travel chaos from a historic snowstorm, a blockbuster coaching move at LSU, and a high-tech casino cheating scheme that landed a couple in jail. Plus, the First Lady launches a film studio, the White House launches a media hit list, and TikTok launches a self-improvement craze. And here's the trivia question. Crossing my fingers. What do you fear if you have hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia? I think I said it right. It's Monday, December 1st. This is the Flyover Podcast. Welcome to the Flyover Podcast, taking you above the noise for an unbiased, high-altitude view of today's headlines with daily coverage that's honest and refreshing. Let's cruise the news and land the facts. Hello and welcome back from Thanksgiving weekend and happy December. I'm your weekday host, Ayla Brown, and I hope your bellies are full and your spirits are high. I'm back from a week-long cruise with 33 members of my husband's extended family. It was so fun, but back to reality, traffic, and cups of coffee. Thank you so much for making us part of your daily routine. Let's take off with today's biggest headlines. A record-breaking snowstorm across the Midwest and Great Lakes caused major post-Thanksgiving travel problems, with more than 4,200 delayed flights and over 500 cancellations. Chicago saw its snowiest November on record, with more than 8 inches falling through Sunday morning. The storm is now moving east, bringing more slick roads and dangerous driving conditions. And airlines say a mandatory software update for Airbus A320s added to the delays, though most of the fixes now are complete. Next, Lane Kiffin is leaving Ole Miss to become the new head coach at LSU, replacing Brian Kelly, who was fired in October. Kiffin's new deal reportedly makes him one of the highest-paid coaches in college football, and the move comes just 2 days after Ole Miss finished its regular season 11-1 and appeared headed for its first college football playoff. The school declined to let him coach the team through a potential title run, immediately promoting defensive coordinator Pete Golding to head coach. And next, a couple from Kazakhstan is in an Australian jail after allegedly using spy gear to win more than $1 million at a Sydney casino. Staff spotted a tiny camera hidden in 36-year-old Dilnoza Israelva's Mickey Mouse t-shirt, leading to the arrest of her and her husband. Police later found magnetized probes, a phone mirror attachment, and earpieces used to receive betting tips. The pair had arrived in Kazakhstan in October, applied for a casino membership the same day, and raised suspicion after winning about $1.2 million over several visits. Here are your top political headlines. A senior FDA official, Vinay Prasad, is calling for stronger government oversight of vaccines after an internal investigation linked the COVID vaccine to deaths of 10 children. He says current monitoring systems didn't catch warning signs early enough and is pushing for wider federal reviews. Independent experts note that vaccine-related child deaths remain extremely rare and the findings are still under scientific review. Next, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says a 29-year-old Afghan migrant accused of killing a National Guard member in Washington, D.C. was likely radicalized after arriving in the U.S. The Thanksgiving Eve attack has prompted the Trump administration to suspend asylum processing and pledge mass deportations of immigrants from what it calls third world countries. Authorities say the suspect entered the U.S. in 2021. Republican Congressman Troy Nehls of Texas, one of former President Trump's biggest allies on Capitol Hill, says he won't run for re-election. Instead, he's endorsing his identical twin brother, Trevor, to take his seat. He becomes the 39th member of Congress to bow out this cycle, continuing an unusually high wave of departures. In a little personal news from Capitol Hill, Senator Cory Booker has officially tied the knot. He married real estate investor Alexis Lewis, and the couple celebrated with 2 separate ceremonies and locations that are meaningful to them. Photos from the events were released over the weekend, and you can find them in the show notes below. Here are those podcast extra stories. First Lady Melania Trump announced the launch of Muse Films, her new production company named after her Secret Service code name. The news dropped just ahead of the January 30th theatrical release of her documentary directed by Brett Ratner, which follows the 20 days leading up to President Trump's 2025 inauguration with exclusive behind-the-scenes footage. Amazon MGM Studios paid a record $40 million for the film, with Melania reportedly receiving 70% of the payout. And the project will debut in theaters before streaming on Prime Video alongside a 3-part docuseries. She also released a sleek studio logo, though it's unclear whether Muse Films produced the documentary or will mainly support future projects. Next, the White House has launched a new web page naming, quote, Media Offenders of the Week and featuring an online Hall of Shame, targeting reporters and outlets it claims misrepresented coverage of President Trump's recent comments toward Democratic lawmakers. The database sorts articles by outlet, reporter, and labels like bias and lie, with the Washington Post topping the first list. A White House official said it's meant partly for holiday arguments, while critics like the Freedom of Press Foundation's Seth Stern argue it's simply an attempt to punish journalists who don't flatter the administration. And TikTok's winter arc trend is taking off as users commit to 3 months of intense self-improvement from October through December, popularized by influencer Carly Burgess, whose video has more than 4 million views. Participants are setting strict goals, so early workouts, meal prepping, reading more, and cutting toxic relationships, sometimes even signing winter arc contracts. Trainer Michael Baugh says the 90-day window is ideal for building habits, but therapists warn that extreme isolation can backfire, recommending small, sustainable improvements instead. Well, coming up, a vet goes to jail over a rescued dog. President Trump pardons a former world leader convicted of drug trafficking. And an AI startup hires a sci-fi writer to bring alien chatbots to life. I'll explain all of that next. But first, thanks to Native Path Hydrate, most people know staying hydrated is pretty much essential to every bodily function that we have, but most of Americans still don't consume enough fluid daily. And you probably know this, but as we age, those natural bodily changes make staying hydrated even harder, especially without artificial additives or those excess sugars. So that's where Native Path comes in with a little extra help. Native Path's Hydrate is not just another drink mix. It's delicious. It's designed with BCAAs and all 9 essential amino acids to help with muscle recovery, overall vitality. Did I say it's sugar-free and 100% natural? I thought I did. It's only 5 calories per serving, and every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. Visit nativehydrate.com/flyover or click the link in today's show notes to purchase and learn more. In finance, Americans spent big over the holiday weekend. Online shoppers shelled out $11.8 billion on Black Friday alone, a record-setting number that came despite lingering inflation worries and broader economic uncertainty heading into Christmas. At the box office, Disney's Zootopia 2 dominated Thanksgiving weekend, pulling in $556 million globally, the biggest opening for an animated film in history. Analysts say the sequel's performance is a much-needed win for Disney heading into the final stretch of the year. And in the sports business world, football club Barcelona is facing backlash over its new sponsorship with a little-known blockchain company called Zero Knowledge Proof. Critics say the deal lacks transparency and could put fans at risk of falling into questionable or poorly regulated financial schemes. You can read more about that in the show notes below. Here's what's happening beyond our borders. President Trump announced he's issuing a full pardon to former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, who is currently serving a 45-year sentence in a U.S. prison for drug trafficking. Hernandez was convicted of helping smuggle more than 400 tons of cocaine into the United States, and the pardon immediately drew international attention. In Switzerland, voters delivered a decisive verdict on a proposed 50% inheritance tax on estates over 50 million Swiss francs, roughly $62 million. The plan was overwhelmingly rejected, with 78% voting against it. The measure was pitched by young socialists to help pay for climate projects, but opponents warned it could drive wealthy residents out of the country. And in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has formally requested a pardon from President Isaac Herzog as his corruption trial continues. Netanyahu has been facing charges for years, including fraud, bribery, and breach of trust, in a case that has deeply divided Israeli politics. In sports, the Carolina Panthers pulled out a tight 31-28 win over the Rams thanks to a late fumble forced by Derek Brown at the 22-yard line. Carolina stays firmly in the playoff hunt with that victory. In the NHL, New York Rangers defenseman Adam Fox has been placed on long-term injured reserve after suffering an upper body injury Saturday against Tampa Bay. Fox had been off to a strong start this season with 26 points in 27 games. Former Lions center Frank Ragnow, who retired back in June, attempted an NFL comeback, but it hit a snag. He failed his physical on Friday, which pauses any immediate plans for a return to the field. And the WNBA is bracing for possible labor trouble. Pay negotiations stalled ahead of Sunday's deadline, raising the prospect of a strike or lockout as players push for a larger share of the league's growing revenue. In science and tech, an AI startup is taking a creative approach to its new line of alien-themed chatbots. They've actually hired a science fiction novelist to write full backstories for these AI companions. The digital creatures come from a fictional planet and are designed to talk with users about everyday life, but with an emotional, story-driven twist. How do you feel about that? The comment section is open for business. In Budapest, archaeologists uncovered a stunning 1,700-year-old Roman sarcophagus completely intact. Inside was the skeleton of a young woman surrounded by glass vessels, bronze figurines, and more than 140 coins, and fragments of gold-threaded fabric. The entire stone coffin had been sealed with molten lead, which helped preserve the artifacts for nearly 2 millennia. And Russia's Baikonur Cosmodrome, its only active launch site for crewed missions, suffered notable damage during last week's Soyuz MS-28 liftoff. Officials say the blast affected parts of the launch pad infrastructure, raising concerns about future missions until repairs are complete. Here are a few additional headlines that we wanted you to know about today. Like this, a Michigan veterinarian has been sentenced to 10 days in jail after refusing to return a 16-year-old pit bull mix to its homeless owner. The vet found the dog tied to a truck, treated it at her clinic, and then declined to give it back, prompting the legal case that led to her sentencing. A Russian fitness influencer has died of heart failure at the age of 30 after attempting a dramatic weight gain experiment. He had been consuming up to 10,000 calories a day to gain 55 pounds before showing followers his planned weight loss program. Instead, he gained 29 pounds in a month and died in his sleep. And Ireland has postponed its groundbreaking plan to require cancer warning labels on all alcohol products. The measure, originally scheduled for May of 2026, has been pushed back to September 2028 after heavy lobbying from the alcohol industry. It would be the first policy of its kind in the world once implemented. And you can read more about that in the show notes below. We made it to the poll on a Monday. Here's the results of yesterday's question. Have you decorated for Christmas yet? 45% said no, 40% said yes, and about 16% said still too early. Thanks to everyone who voted. My family decorated last night, and it was really fun. My 3-year-old son loved it, and it made me very happy. Here's today's poll question. Are you still eating leftovers? Yes or no? For me, I actually bought a full Thanksgiving meal from Whole Foods before we left for our cruise, and I thawed it out last night, and we all ate it for dinner. So does that count as a leftover? I will never know exactly, but you can vote in the show notes below. All right, here I go, attempting the trivia question once again. It's going to haunt me forever. What do you fear if you have hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia? Oh my gosh, I think I got it. Ironically, the answer is you fear long words. The term itself is a 36-letter word whose roots trace back to ancient Rome, where writers in the 1st century BCE used an early form of it to mock authors obsessed with overly long, showy vocabulary. Thank goodness I've never been one of those people. I'm very basic when it comes to my words, but I will say that is it for today's flyover. I know I just got back from my Thanksgiving cruise, but I do have one more vacation day that I'm taking tomorrow. So Christopher Lyons will be filling in for me. And then I will be with you the rest of the year. I hope you learned something new today. I will see you on Wednesday morning. Until then, thanks for flying with us.